Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for Mingle Mastermind, where we're going to be talking about how to protect your photography with copyright law. And we are thrilled to have Oliver Archer, our one of our Fashion Mingle photographers for New York Fashion Week, who has a very wonderful business in New York City, working with corporate businesses and editorial shoots. And he's going to be talking with us from the perspective of a photographer. And then Shirin, our fashion and business lawyer, is going to be talking to us from the perspective of the owner of the photos or a business that's using photos. So I think this is going to be a really helpful conversation to have today, because it's one of those areas where there's definitely a lot of confusion. So let's go ahead and introduce our panel. Dale, would you like to start? Introduce yourself and tell us what you have going on that we need to look forward to with you.
Sure. I'm Dale Noel. I'm the founder and CEO of True Model Management. We're based here in New York, but we represent models around the world. And we're working on a few projects, mainly with a collaborative workspace on West 37th Street in New York, and also helping content creators get their products ready to show to the world. You can reach out to me if you would like to have avatars of any people or models. We have a scanning machine at our office, and we're always open to new collaborations. Everyone's starting to call about all the different fashion weeks now, and we also do a lot of fit modeling. So if there's any production needs you have, just let us know.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Melissa.
Yeah. How are you doing, Kat?
I'm good. I'm getting ready to go to Austin, Texas, your hometown.
Yep.
I'm packing up, leaving town, so it's exciting.
Started.
Beginning of the summer, beginning of the Memorial Weekend. Yeah, it feels like New York's coming back. I'm really so thrilled. I'm going to start my fashion brunch up again. I have Runway the Real Way is my company, and High Tech Moda is doing Orlando Swim Week, and we just got a media sponsor with Orlando Fashion Magazine. So I just got off the phone with him, and I told him, you got to join Fashion Mingle.
Oh, wonderful.
So we got a new member from the Orlando Fashion Magazine, and I'm trying to get some local designers down there, so we don't just bring all international and New York designers down to Orlando. I like to, when we go to the community, to find the local talent too. So, but it's a great, I just happen to think, you know, there's got to be a media person down there to align with, and they're launching their magazine, and we're launching the Swim Week. So it's going to be like a double duo of debuting our fashion platforms together. So it's a great match. I just, you pick up the phone and you just talk, and you ask questions and see where people are at, and it just, I love this business for that. You just get on the phone.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Absolutely. Well, looking forward to seeing what you guys produce this summer, and happy to share what you're doing and all the designers on Fashion Mingle.
Yeah, can't wait. Now we got a new magazine.
That is very exciting. Yeah, that's a lot of work. So congratulations.
Yeah.
So Shirin, please introduce yourself and share with us what you have going on.
Thanks, Melissa. Hi, everyone. I'm Shirin, the founder and CEO of Rakomova Law. We are a full-service virtual boutique law firm, providing your brand from setup to growth and the eventual success of your business. So I have had the pleasure of meeting some new brands this week, and really connecting with some interesting partners, and of course there will be more information coming up, but really looking forward to this session, because I have been speaking on this issue obviously many times, and for different professionals, including photographers, and I just felt like this was a need to really get it out there, because there is so much that photographers really need to understand and appreciate in their business, and they're basically losing a lot of money by not installing some of these practices into their business. And I'm happy to have Oliver here to enlighten us, of course, on his success and hopefully help our members, join in his path. I'm also going to break down NFTs. I know that wasn't initially part of our discussion points, but I've been talking a lot about that with photographers. So I thought,
Awesome.
let's talk about it, and let's see how we can help you make money using NFTs, because that is a whole other complicated legal thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're
Yes.
seeing that everywhere. It's so
Oh my gosh.
fascinating to follow what's happening in that area. Well, Oliver, you are the founder of Oliver Archer Photography. You're based in New York City. Tell us about your business and what you have going on.
Yes, thanks, Melissa. So I'm Oliver Archer. I'm a portrait and fashion photographer based in New York City. I'm a former film student and I'm also a former engineer as well. So I have the technical backside. So I'm used to all that corporate, workflow and corporate speak, I guess. So I've shot 2 seasons of New York Fashion Week at CoverGirl, Flying Solo. I have multiple publications, shot celebrities. So I've worked with models, designers, modeling agencies, corporate real estate, and of course, just folks who want to get their picture taken that just wants to look great on the website. So if you have any questions or anything, just send me an email.
And Oliver, you're originally from Austin too, right?
So I moved from the West Coast to Texas and then to New York. So 3 stopovers.
That's literally the same path I took.
Yeah, you're from Arizona, right?
Yeah, I was in Silicon Valley for 6 years.
Oh, wow. Yes, it's a beast in the Bay Area, but there's not a lot of fashion photography happening over there. So
no, there's definitely not.
Definitely.
That's a tough place to live.
It is.
Well, Dee, thanks for joining us. You just popped on, and I'm sure Dee's going to have a lot to contribute to this conversation as well with the kind of clients that she works with. You want to introduce yourself and tell us what's going on that you've got coming up? Your hair looks beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
Love that.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dee. I am the CEO of DCG Media Group. We are a full PR advertising and branding company here in New York and New Jersey. I live in New Jersey, working from home. So we have some really amazing upcoming, it's been crazy. But we have Hampton's Fashion Week coming up in Southampton, which will be August 7th at a museum in Southampton. And then we have a yacht rosé brunch August 8th. For designers, we have some celebrities walking down the runway, which I cannot divulge, but I am going to do a big media release starting June, once all the contracts are signed and agreements and NDAs, as you know, and all that other good stuff. But anyway, then we have Times Square Fashion Week. So as you know, Melissa, you worked with me in 2019, and we did 2020 on a double-decker bus. So this year we're doing a live event at the heart of Times Square. We do have some celebrities for that as well. We are going to be doing the billboards again, and then we're going to do a tour on the double-decker bus with the designers, the press, and then we're going to have after party at a yacht as well. So
wow,
we are excited. So the ante has been, elevated. So we have some really great stuff. There's some other things coming, but right now I could just focus on those items because it's a lot.
Dee, what is your Times Square Fashion Week date?
It is September 12th, and it is from 3 to 6, and then the after party starts at 7.
Okay. And then Catherine, you're doing High Tech Moda during Fashion Week as well. What's the date on that?
The 10th and 11th.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's at the Edison Ballroom on 47th Street. We're calling it Lights Up the Theater of Fashion.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so you guys, tickets are ticket. I know tickets are being sold for yours, Dee. Do you have tickets ready to be sold, Catherine?
Yeah, we're launching that as soon as we get the lineup for the sustainable lineup. So probably in the next couple weeks, www.hitechmoda.com.
Okay, awesome.
Ticket sales are launching soon.
Well, it's good to hear from Dale that she's getting lots of calls for Fashion Week, because that means Oliver and I could be very busy as our media team. So
awesome.
Yeah, looking forward to that, and we do have a possible event that may happen with Fashion Mingle. Just haven't had time to.
The New York Fashion Week event?
Well, we've got a possible event to do with a client. That would be like 3 different things, and then we're talking with them, and then I think we'll probably try to do a small member only party,
right?
And so you know, I've got to like really get that plan.
Melissa, I just signed a yacht. It's a company that I'm working with. I just signed a contract with them. They do yachts, private jets, and all that. So if you need a yacht for your event, let me know. That would be a great kind of cool, like, I don't know, just let me know.
Okay, yeah. Whatever we do, it's going to be really, really simple, because we want it to be mostly just for our members to have a chance to get together and celebrate New York back.
Right.
And our real focus will be on obviously supporting both of you in your events, and then media team, you know, and then any client projects that we have going on. Yeah. So I need as little stress as possible.
Good luck with that one, Melissa.
Yeah, no kidding. I know. You always think that like Fashion Week, you can manage it, and then no, you're about to die to get through it.
Stress can become a drug.
You chose events and you don't want stress.
I know. I ask for all the trouble, so I can't complain about it.
Yeah, right. We thrive on chaos.
No kidding. I always tell myself like, okay, that's it. I can't go through that again. And then there's something about the allure that you can't stop yourself.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yes.
No matter how much suffering
it's
you
addicting.
go through.
Yeah,
it is
it's addicting.
You
There's
can't.
passion in fashion.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
There's a church basement for all of us somewhere.
There needs to be a church basement. Yes, absolutely.
A support group, definitely. Recovering fashion addicts.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump into this conversation. So we're going to talk about who owns the photography you're using to promote your brand, how to protect your photography from online theft, what are the privacy laws around street photography, why you should use a model release, and negotiating a license with a photographer. So what we would love for our attendees to do is to post their questions in the comments. And then if you do have a situation where you would like to, you know, come on with video and ask a question directly, just click the little hand icon and we'll bring you on over. But please feel free to also share the name of your business, your Instagram, your website in the chat, and start getting to know each other, because we often make really valuable connections through this process. So let's get started. Shirin, why don't you give us an overview about the things that we need to think about as a brand using photography that we own or that we need to use?
Absolutely. So generally speaking, if you hired a professional photographer to take a picture for yourself or for your business, then chances are, unless you have a written contract stating otherwise, the photographer is actually the owner of those pictures, and you merely have a right, or as they say, a license to use them. However, you never want to leave this unknown. So ultimately, you know, that can turn into a very costly assumption in the form of an infringement if you are misusing the photography. So unlike personal photography, commercial photography licenses demands a higher rate, and because the images are not being used for personal enjoyment, they're out there, for a commercial purpose, and there's obviously, revenues being derived from them. So, so the contract itself will need to include key provisions, including the scope of the service, which is, how many photos, resolution, digital, print, etc. The price quote, broken down by the creative fee, the licensing fee, the additional fees for location, any other things that is being discussed, the ownership and the licensing rights for the usage, of course, releases, governing law and jurisdiction to resolve any disputes, and indemnification. So these are some of the key provisions that go in there. But like I said, when you hire a photographer, you have to know that by default, the photographer is the owner, and unless you put into contract that you are, purchasing the photography itself, the ownership, the photographer withholds that. So those are really important to iron out in an agreement.
Oliver, tell us how you operate with, negotiating a license, creating that contract. What's some of your client experiences? Because I'm sure you get clients that have no understanding whatsoever that this is how it works.
So you have to kind of gauge where your client is based and what their revenue is. If it's like a mom and pop shop, you have to kind of adjust and price your prices accordingly. So for like mom and pop shops who are not like, the high end big clientele. So what you do is you include your first usage. Basically, it's your base rate or your creative fee. Usually that first usage is what that image is intended for. So let's say that you shot a mom and pop shop, it's for a restaurant, they're gonna put it on their menu, that's fine, that's for the first usage. And usually first usage is anywhere from 6 months to a year. And anything longer than that, then it goes to kind of extensive use. And if they wanna put it like in a point of sale, or they wanna put it like on a billboard outside the restaurant, then that's gonna be extensive use. And then you have to charge accordingly for that. So it always depends on what your clientele is and where that image is going to end up. You have to know the demographics. Is it going to be worldwide usage? Is it perpetual? And then how long do they need to use it for? Usually as a photographer, you, like what Shirin says, you're the copyright owner, and you don't want to always give your copyright, your ownership to the photos. There are certain clients who do want the photos to have an ownership, and that's what you call a buyout fee. And a buyout fee basically transfers your ownership to the buyer. And from there, I mean, you can still put it on your portfolio, but it has to all be set in the contract, either in the contract, or you could put it on a deal memo as well.
Okay. So like a experience I had one time, just like I wasn't really involved, but I kind of observed it and thought it was interesting. One of the photographers that was shooting with us at Fashion Week was doing hair shots for, for the hair team, and the hair company, which was a salon in New York City. They wanted to use some of the shots to put in an industry magazine. And so they had to buy the picture from the photographer for like a single use, like so that's kind of, and it was about, I think it was about $350. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it depends where it's going to be. So if it's going to be like in a publication, and that publication is only like US territories, then you just price it accordingly. So a good tool to use is it's a Getty images calculator, and you could use that estimate for any publication. You'll say like what the distribution is, and it's just basically a calculator, and you could use that as kind of a setting point of where to price or negotiate your prices.
Wow, that's really handy. I didn't know that Getty provided that.
Yeah.
And so is it like I mean, Getty is very expensive.
Yeah.
So is it Getty's prices that they're calculating?
It depends on the thing. So it's kind of like a starting point, and also where you're at your photography level. So if you're at, mid-level photographer, with a few years of experience, you're not going to be able to charge certain prices. It's going to be based on budget. So sometimes you could put it into your base rate or your creative fee, and then you don't have to add that usage unless you add that contract where it says, first usage 1 year, 6 months to 1 year usage. Any additional usage after that would be extensive use, and then you just that's also probably decently for photographers to make money as well. Is that when you do 1 year, and then the client could come back for you after the year and say, hey, I love the images, I want to keep on using it. Let me buy another license. So, or sometimes usually they just want to do a buyout license. That's what there's certain companies or certain restaurants where you take a picture, you give it them for 1 year, and after that 1 year, they usually want to do a buyout after that.
Okay, interesting. So, I mean, I've seen a lot of online theft of photography over the years, and especially since the invention of Google Images. I even had several clients and people I've known go through that process where there was a big problem for a while. People did not understand that they couldn't just take a picture off of Google Images and put it on their website, and then these random photography companies that turned out to all be owned by Getty were sending cease and desist letters and charging like $800 plus for the photo. And this was terrifying for people. I mean, I knew people that were getting the letters, and that they were scared. I mean, it was really frightening because they'd never gotten a letter like that, and they had no idea they'd done anything wrong. And so luckily, eventually, a lawyer who somehow got a threatening letter, he actually ended up taking it to court, and the judge was like, you guys sell this picture for $1 on your website, so you get $1. And that just stopped it. Thank God. It was so terrifying. And I mean, I did eventually get a letter that from a client, a client that I was working on. We had managed their blog for like 8 years, and I had used various people to write the blog and put in the photos, and so things got a little messy, and we were using different stock photography companies to, as a subscription. But it's very possible one of these people could have swiped something off Google Images, and I didn't know it. I mean, I always tried to train them, but it could have slipped through the cracks. And so I had known about that lawsuit, and so this happened after that lawsuit. Yeah. And so I was just like, well, prove it to me. Which I have subscribed to like 4 or 5 different photo sites over the last couple of years. You've got to tell me which one I subscribed or which one this is from, so that I can track it down. Never heard from him again. And so what they were trying to do was just find the low-hanging fruit, the people that were so scared about receiving that letter that they would just write the check. So luckily that doesn't happen anymore. But Shirin, what have you seen any types of things in your career where people have gotten sued for using photos that don't belong to them?
Yes, and it's still happening, by the way. I mean,
it is? Oh, I'm just lucky not to get one anymore.
I just literally resolved one last week.
Oh
not Getty Images, but Reuters. But similar situation where the client, the brand, had thought they were using what was an authorized license, but it turned out not to be. But this was not like from a subscription base. So it was from someone who probably didn't get the right license. And we were able to negotiate for, as you said, the actual license fee as opposed to the astronomical damages that they were trying to add on. So yes, it still happens. Yes, there are still firms that go after everyone to try to catch whoever they can with these, these penalties and things like that. And, for the most part, yes, I mean, as the owner, the copyright owner, you do have a right to protect your photos, your original works. But obviously, there's an extent to that, and under the law, there's there's the innocence, right? There's the unintentional, and then there's the intentional, willful. That's where the punitive damages and all of these, additional costs tally up on. So you should know, obviously, if it was an innocent mistake, then you should be able to remedy it with payment for the license fee for what you used. But to go back to how do you protect online theft? First and foremost, register your photos. So when that time comes and you have to go after someone for infringement, then you've got the law on your side, and it's easy to just send that cease and desist letter, as you mentioned, Melissa, and say, here's the registration. I'm the owner. You misused my my photo without my permission. And and the other thing that photographers can do is put a watermark on it, and that adds a level of intent to it. So now if you do pull a photo, as you see, if you're trying to get a stock image and you don't pay for it, there's a watermark on it, which clearly shows who the owner is. And if you use that photo, you know for a fact that you are not the owner and you have no rights to use it. So when it does show up on your feed and you do get that cease and desist letter, that's when you can get hit with damages, because now it's a willful, willful intent to obviously, use someone else's photo without their permission. So that's a great way of preventing it by adding these, additional layers of protection. And of course, another, once you've registered your photos, once you've put watermarks on them, so no one else can just lift them and put them on their own feeds and websites, then another you may want to invest in, or there's of course you could use Google, right? Do a reverse search of your image and see where else it has been, and of course go after those parties if they did not get a license from you for the usage. So there are ways to and I know photographers that have that don't feel comfortable going after people, especially clients. So one of the biggest issues I have is, and I'm sure Oliver can enlighten us too, clients that go beyond the terms of usage. And they're like, oh, well, it's clearly in the contract that, there's a term on there. Anything beyond that is technically infringement. You don't have a right to use it just because you had it at the beginning. So, the problem that I've been finding is photographers wanting to enforce that term in their contracts. And that's what it's for. And if you don't enforce it, then you're going to devalue not only your photos, your services, but I mean, at this point, there's no, it's going to be more difficult for you to actually then go after someone else if they do, in fact, infringe it, and it becomes very infamous, let's call it. And I've seen that happen where a photographer had a contract with a brand to use the photography. It went past the term of usage, and then all of a sudden this particular picture went viral, and now it's getting a lot of buzz and all of that, and this photographer is not getting paid for any of that. Mm-hmm. So that's when you definitely want to go after the brands or whoever else is trying to infringe on your photos, and it's important to do that. So first protect, and second enforce.
Oliver, have you had any experience having to enforce an infringement?
Knock on wood. So far so good. So usually when I have my images, there is a metadata as well. So you could put that into Lightroom. You could put all your, when you shot it, who was there, the date, so forth. And then I also use a company called Kodak One as well. So Kodak One, what they do is they're the intermediate company. So they're the one who kind of enforces. So I don't have to be the enforcer where I have to contact clients. They're the ones who see if there's any infringement. And then they give an option for the person to actually buy the image. Say, hey, if you want to buy the image, here's the proper license, here is the price. And then there's usually secondary or tertiary stages. If they don't respond, then they do a cease and desist after that. But usually they give you an email that says, hey, we found this on a specific website. Do you want to continue or do you want to proceed with this? If it's something where you've already shared the image with the previous client and it pops up somewhere else, then yes, you could go ahead and enforce that. But, you know, knock on wood, nothing so far. But I definitely agree with Shirin about registering your images. So if you go to like the copyright office, it's like $45 for like a single image. But if you do like a batch image, I think it's only like $55. So it's like up to like 750 images. So once I get to 750 images, then yes, I'll register. But right now I don't want to do individual ones yet, but I'm planning to do that soon too.
So I wonder how, like, people, you know, so many people are shooting their own photography. I mean, whether it's like an influencer having their boyfriend or their husband do it, or even a brand who's able to set up, you know, like a little product photography photo shoot right in their home. Do you recommend that they have a service like that, or like use Lightroom? I mean, because obviously what a lot of people are doing are just like shooting with their camera, maybe even their mobile phone. And I mean, they're not using Lightroom unless they're a professional. I mean, how are they going to protect their images? Is there anything that they can do? I mean, I guess, can you explain the reverse image search? Oliver, have you ever done that before?
Yeah, so if you do a reverse image search, sometimes it gets tricky because if someone edits your photos and they either flip the image or they color it or they crop it a certain way, Google Images is not going to find that. So that's why I go with some services with Kodak One, because they have an algorithm that kind of searches if your image got flipped or so. So Google Images is a good place to start, but it's not the end all be all.
Okay.
You could search, but yeah, it's going to take some time. There's some metadata in an iPhone, but there's not much to track. If you put it, let's say on, you know, Instagram, people are, you know, they could definitely share it on Instagram within the platform, but then if they put it to like Pinterest, it'll be up to you if you want to enforce that as well, because technically like that's social media. They put a pin, they copied and paste. Again, it's how much time are you willing to put in to enforce those rules? And is it going to be worth it? Is it going to be like, you know, a 92-year-old grandma in Minnesota or something that you want to enforce the law? And, you know, there's certain times where you have to just weigh the time. It's going to be on you. So,
yeah. Shirin, could you explain to us, like, say, you know, like a brand, you know, well, I'll just give you an example, like using a Fashion Mingle member. Say, like on our Fashion Mingle Instagram account, we see Dee posting some fabulous photos from Times Square Fashion Week, and we like maybe use that repost app or whatever and share it on Fashion Mingle. Is that like, if we're sharing within our in Instagram with something that's on Instagram, is that legal and okay to do?
Well,
Or do you
first
need to get permission?
Well, I mean, first of all, you have to determine who is the owner of those pictures, right? So if Dee was the owner of the pictures, she posted it, then of course, if you're not affiliated with her and you didn't have permission to use it based on the event that you worked on together, then yeah, you would have to get her permission to post that. If you're reposting her post, then that's not necessarily associating that picture with your brand. You're just sort of sharing her post, and of course the credit goes back to Dee, so that's fine. It's when you crop Dee's picture, put it on Fashion Mingle and put a Fashion Mingle mark on it and make people believe that you know it's a Fashion Mingle, you know, that Fashion Mingle owns it. The other thing is, obviously, if Dee took that picture but the photographer Oliver was the photographer, then you know in the original post Dee has to give credit to Oliver on that post, and then of course as it gets reshared, that credit should continue. If that gets
often
broken,
probably doesn't.
well,
Yeah.
that's the other problem. And of course, as Oliver mentioned, you know, it's a time value thing, right? So is it worth your while to go after someone? And I can tell you when it is, when it does affect your business. And unfortunately, I've seen this far too many times where a brand has spent a lot of money on photography and amazing content, puts it on their website, puts it on their social media, and then another brand looks at it and says, wow, this is great, thank you so much. And crops it and literally pastes it on their own website and rebrands it. So in the instance, you know, in this example, taking the pictures of a bag, right, of this fabulous model walking with the bag, and the same picture is posted on a competitive website where they just cut out the logo of that bag and replace it with their logo. Same picture, everything else is the same. And now they're competing.
That's theft.
Right, exactly. And that's where I go, you know, and that's where we really want to fight and enforce those, because, but the problem with this brand was, although they spent all of this time, money, investment with those pictures and beautiful content, they did not register the copyrights. And so when it came time to fight for those, because they were literally having consumer confusion. People are going into the other brand thinking, did they change their website? What's going on? I mean, it's literally the look and feel was, everything was the same. It was just a different logo on the bag and a different name on the website. That was it. And so unfortunately, one, they didn't get their attorney's fees covered for fighting all of this. Two, they couldn't even go to court because you have to register before you can go to court. And then three, the most important for them was, how do you prove the damages? Because if you don't register, then you don't get the benefit of the statutory damages, which in this case would have been $150,000 per picture. And I can tell you, there were tons of pictures and content taken. So, you know, the case went from being a plus $1 million in potential damages that this brand could have gotten from a competing brand to, you know, trying to settle it for pennies because they couldn't even afford to enforce it at this point.
Wow.
So yeah, you definitely want to learn how, you know, what's important to protect. And if it's part of the face of your brand, and if you already put that money into the investment, that you want to protect it from commercial theft, essentially.
Mm-hmm. So I know model release forms are super important. Dale, you have a modeling agency, so you must deal with this constantly.
Every day, yes.
Every day. So tell us how that works for the, like, why you would want to use a model release and what protection that gives you guys.
Well, it depends. There are different angles of it. There are when the clients, we get most of them from our clients who are asking us to release it to them so that the model and True won't come after them because the model's in the photo. So I would say the bulk of the ones I sign have to do more with that. The one, and the model is meeting with the photographer. We may have set it up for them, but most of the times we'll make an introduction and let them do it directly. And then the photographer will make an arrangement with the model and or us that they have either exclusive or not exclusive rights to use them, and to use them for certain things. Like, yes, you can put it in your portfolio. Yes, you can do this, but you cannot sell it and make money off of it. And if you do, then you owe the photographer or, you know, whoever took the photo money. So those are like the most basic cases, I would say. Every once in a while we might get, you know, because I feel like there's a template that goes around that there are the basic standards in each one, but then there might be, you know, a unique request from someone for a particular photo. I find the tracking, because I love listening to this part, it started when I was a model, actually, photos of me, and it was before the internet too. So on it, and the photos were removed, you know, from their catalogs or something after a few complaints. But now it's great that we have these ways that we can track them online, and I'm going to look into some that you just suggested, Oliver and Shirin. I really appreciate that, and I'm sure there's new ones every day popping up.
Yeah.
Did I answer your
Oliver?
question, Melissa? Or was there something
Yeah,
else?
no, that was great. Yeah, Oliver, tell us how you use model releases and how your clients use them.
So it depends what the end goal is. So when I've worked with certain modeling agencies, so there is, like the modeling test where sometimes you don't get paid for it. So it's basically you want to create a portfolio for yourself and for the model. And sometimes you want to go for publications as well. So when you do a model release, it's with the intention of using it for publications. If you were to put it on, let's say like a stock website or anything like that, usually like the generic model releases don't have that verbiage in there. It just says valuable consideration considered as like photographs. It doesn't say that the model will get a share of it. But if I were to put something on a stock website and let's say that somebody buys it, of course, what I would do is I would kick it back to the agency or to the model if I were going to put it on a stock website. But it's with the understanding what the intention of the goal is. So if it's for a publication, it's like what your intended use is. So you do the model release for the purpose of the publication, then yes, that's fine. But anything outside that, let's say you're going to do like a commercial publication, you're going to sell that and you're going to put a product behind it, then no, that's probably not something that it's would be good for you or the model or the modeling agency.
How do you deal with when you're out doing, at a photo shoot and maybe there's people behind you, you're doing a street photo shoot. Do you have to go up to those people to ask them for a model release, or is it just legal to have them in the photo because they're in a public space?
Yeah, so there's privacy laws, of course, like when you're in public, you kind of forfeit certain privacy when you're in public. But when you're using the photo is again what the intended use is. So let's say you go to a public place, you shoot it and you use a person's image. So they have a right to their use of their likeness. So you can't use someone's likeness and put them on like a Pepsi or a Coke ad or anything like that. But if you were, gonna take a photo, put it on your portfolio, then I think it's fine. You can go ahead and shoot away. But there's certain places in public that's, I guess, certain landmarks and certain usage that you can't take certain photos, and then you would have to get a permit as well. So it depends, again, where you're standing, when you're shooting. Again, for the public is basically, what is it, that golden rule? Like if someone took a photo of you and you're in, a compromising or, not great position, and, you can ask the photographers like, oh, hey, by the way, can you delete that? If someone were asking me that, of course I would delete it right away. But then, you don't have to, but you just have that dignity to go ahead and delete that photo if someone's not comfortable with it. But when I've shot street photography, usually I would, talk to the person, just give them a quick wave, quick hi. You don't want to be kind of like a secretive with the camera where you're just like shooting, walk away. You want to be kind of intentional where you're shooting so people know that you're shooting and you're not like shooting from your hip, shooting like that. You just want to be very intentional that people know you're taking their photo.
Okay. Shirin, what about event photography? Dee and Kat and I put events on all the time. We take we have a photographer take pictures at the event. And then we might use those pictures in the future for marketing purposes, but not have a model release. Is that okay to do?
Well, I mean, first off, depends on the type of event, right? If it's considered a private event and there's an expectation that everyone has that it's going to be a private affair, then no, you would not be able to just take pictures and commercialize those pictures, outside of the scope of what the intended purpose of them being at the event. So I would go back to, looking at the information that you provided all the attendees about the event, and if there's going to be, pictures taken and so forth. So you have to put out those disclaimers and disclosures to let them know that you are intending to take these pictures. And now anyone that goes into this event is taking that risk essentially and basically waiving their rights to not take their photos. or they can address that with you, of course, privately and say, hey, Melissa, I'll go to this event, but I'm not comfortable giving you this release. So by providing that disclosure at the beginning, before they attend the event, then they know that anything they do, could be put in a commercial or used in a commercial manner outside of the scope of the event. So that's how I would definitely address that, making sure that they know what's going to happen with those pictures that you take.
So for say we're selling tickets on Eventbrite, should we add a little checkoff box that I give permission for my pictures to be used, etc.?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I do that with my kids at school. We go through that checkout box. Exactly. I would just, when you're going to an event and you give them permission to use their picture, that they give you permission to use their pictures.
Okay.
Yeah, that would definitely be easy.
I'd love to hear. Oh, yes, Oliver.
Yeah. So usually when I've attended Hollywood parties and stuff, they have either a poster board or anything, or even a sticker that just exactly mentions what Shirin was saying, that if you step beyond this certain line, you automatically agree to have
Disclaimer.
the photo taken. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I'd love to hear from Kat and Dee. Have you guys had to deal with any of these photography issues with the clients and events?
Yeah, we have a contract between the photographer and that we basically we have rights to use them any way we want. So when they work for us, we pay them, and then they not that they forfeit their ownership, because that can't be, but they give us unlimited usage and rights to it. And we always credit who took it, which is good for them, because we always say hair and makeup by New York Makeup Academy, photo by Andrew W. We give them the credit. So they benefit from that. Because we use their pictures and we hashtag them and we tag them. So that we have that up front, and even video too. So we get all that in contract and a letter of understanding, and with the photographer that we can have unlimited usage for in perpetuity too. So it's not, we can use it. We've used pictures from season 1 and season 5. So we keep but it's never, if we sell that picture, we never do that. If we sell that picture to a magazine or something, then we contact the photographer and tell them that we made something from it. And, it's just a good business practice, the kind of common sense kind of thing. So I'm trying to do that with music too. So, create a Moda music bank, so that if the designers want music, we have original music, and if they use that, I pay the person who created it. So it's almost like a mini ASCAP kind of thing. But
that is something that people don't realize. For fashion shows, you have to license that music that you're playing for the fashion show, and
they will take you down. Facebook will take you down. And
absolutely.
They have a lot of algorithms that track that, and sometimes you can mash it up and get away with it, but for the most part, if you have Aretha Franklin's respect, they'll call you right away. They'll pull it down.
Yeah, we've had problems in the past, a long time ago, when we were first understanding about this, loading videos up to YouTube and them being taken down, and their YouTube asks you all these questions, and I swear it's so confusing. You don't know what half of it means that they're asking you. So
basically you don't own Rihanna's music, so
yeah. Well,
basically you can't use it without paying a licensing fee. That's what it means.
There's websites that you can go to and you can listen to the music, and then you just pay the fee, and it's not that expensive.
Exactly.
And I've even had I've put it in the video, and then have the artist actually, because they got notified, and they even shared the video because they were so excited that their music got chosen.
Yes. It's the way it's supposed to be. Yes.
Yeah, it's very
so it might be another topic to discuss the music too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we should probably soon have a session on all the intricacies of Fashion Week and get everybody educated on all the rules
Yeah.
and things you have to follow.
That's why I started it, because the designers were submitting music that I had no rights to. So I was
And
like,
then
you know,
you
I'm
gotta,
going to
like,
create my own
explain
music.
that. Yes.
Right.
I did. I went through that a couple of years ago. Like, really, no, you can't do that. And they're like,
Yeah.
but I've done it before. And I'm like, sorry, no, you can't do that.
Right. Yes. No. So we'll do that later. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So Dee, how about you? I mean, you work with lots of different clients. You put on lots of different events. This has got to be something you've dealt with often.
Yeah, I have to also be very careful. Like, for example, like I have a photographer sign a contract where it says we're going to be, and I'm very specific, we're going to use it for our website, our social media, we're going to use it for our PR pitches. Some media may want to use this obviously for an article, and then what I do is I credit them and I put their website. So it's very specific, because we only use images because we do these events like Times Square Hamptons for the website, for the social media, obviously to pitch to other clients next year, whatever, but we're very specific. And then when it comes to the models, for example, for these Fashion Week events, we do have them, let them know that, hey, we're going to be photographing you, we're going to be videographing you, and we're going to be using it for X, Y, and Z. Now, if the model wants to use the images for their portfolio or like their lookbook or whatever, they can, but they have to talk directly to the photographer. And then we have that relationship with the photographer who say, look, you know, we'll make sure, like, we just stick to our lane. We don't, I'm not selling pictures. I'm not, if they want to buy those images, they have to buy it for the photographer. And that's usually the deal that I make with the photographer, because then he makes money that way. Mm-hmm. For Latinista, which is a magazine that we own online, we're going to start shooting after the website is done and stuff. We're going to start shooting the covers, and we're going to start actually doing live shoots with models on the cover, all that stuff. So I've worked in editorial where we've done that. And I know that the contracts are very specific with photographers so that's like another ball of wax compared to events. And also with videography, we have to also like we did Times Square where we did the double-decker bus. We had to license music in order to have the video and then put it on Global Fashion Channel. Like there was a whole bunch of, so yeah, you have to deal with that. But I had, and I think I share this in one other mastermind, I had an intern, and that's why I have everybody sign an NDA, because I had an intern in 2000, I think 15, like this is like in the middle of when I was starting, and I did a Fashion Week event and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I had her sign an NDA. I had her sign a non-disclosure, non-circumvent, all of that. And I guess she didn't know what she was signing, because then she started her own PR company, and then she used my images and made it look like she did all this stuff. And so I have Google alerts, right? I have alerts on stuff. Mm-hmm. And when I found that out, I got a lawyer, and they sent her a cease and desist. And she had 24 hours to take things down, or I was going to take her to court. And she did. She got rid of whatever she had to get rid of. Mm-hmm. But it does happen. People use your images. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if I didn't have that agreement with her, you know, if I didn't have those kind of things, who knows what would have happened, you know, but it's always good to have those things in place.
Yeah. And I've seen, I mean, Fashion Week is an interesting situation because most photographers are not getting paid. And, you know, the goal of the photographer is to build a portfolio and get their name out there. But Oliver, can you share any like experiences you've had, or how do you feel about that? You're like, when you work with Fashion Mingle, you know, we're posting your pictures on Instagram, but anybody could probably take those. I mean, you know, you could screenshot them even, and you know, you pass it off, you know, have you ever seen photographers steal somebody else's photographer's work and pass it off as their own? Oops, you're on mute. You're on mute, Oliver.
So I said, like, knock on wood that, that doesn't happen, but, you have to be prepared when it does. Again, you have to have your images, you have to have your metadata attached to your images. And when you're shooting for, let's say, like Fashion Week or Fashion Mingle, what the purpose is. The purpose is to promote, Fashion Mingle, yourself, the models as well. So it's a way for you to get into the field and kind of, again, promote yourself, where you wouldn't have that avenue if you didn't participate. So with that notion, that your images are going to be, sent out on, Instagram, social, websites. As long as you're credited there, it's fine. But there's certain times where, I've worked with, product designers and then they don't credit. And then, I'll just say, hey, by the way, I don't see my name there. And they'll say, oh, sorry, we'll fix it. So it's certain things like that you have to know, and you have to kind of enforce yourself. If it's, mom and pop shop, it's, you just contact them.
I know it really infuriates me, and it's not the same situation, but like Fashion Mingle does a lot of hard work to actually provide access for the photographers to get into Fashion Week, and then on the back end promote their work. And I have had situations even with a photographer, putting all over social media that they're shooting at New York Fashion Week, and here's all my New York Fashion Week pictures, and Fashion Mingle's not tagged. And so it's not the same thing, but but that kind of thing it's important that when you're in a Fashion Week type situation, that everything is reciprocal, because that's what builds a good business working relationship.
Yeah, it's basically the relationships that you form. And then when you're working with someone, you just have to build that relationship. So if they do, accidentally not tag you, then you say, hey, by the way, you didn't tag them, and they fix it. I mean, it's just building a relationship and, having that credibility as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's see. We're ready to end this session. I just want to make sure that Nandy had a question about registering the photos. And so Shirin posted, you can do it yourself at copyright.gov, or of course you can reach out to Shirin. I know Dee and Kat, do you guys have any resources you want to add to the chat of like where you buy music or anything like that?
There's a few music sites they can buy. Also, I'm getting Moda Music Bank up and running, so if they want to contribute to some of our artists that are on there, they can contact me about that. And it's like Sound Your Brand is one, and there's another one that starts with an E, but it's escaping me, but I'll post it, and then we can tell everybody what it is. And anybody can call me, because I'm getting really up to speed, especially on the music thing. So, and I use, with Brenda, with our operations person, I always buy, Adobe sells prints, so you can buy them, and just, you can take a membership out to Adobe, and then for $30 you can buy that print, and you have no watermark on it, and you have usage rights, and they can't, but you have to buy it, and that's only right. But it's not hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and they have fantastic categories on there. And I got the earth and the human hand with the robotic hand. It was perfect. I couldn't have shot that, and it was $35. So Adobe has a lot of great pictures on there, and just join, and you can have access to it and own them then.
Yeah, I've got an Adobe stock subscription, and it's like $30 a month, and I get 10 a month, which, can accumulate over time. O is also mentioning on chat Audio Jungle for music, which is a really great resource as well. Well, thank you everybody for sharing today. I think we learned a lot, and this is definitely, if you want to do something at New York Fashion Week, you've got your whole team right here on this panel. Okay, we can all help you get prepared for Fashion Week, no matter what your needs are. So definitely reach out if you're itching to get back into the game this year. Okay, everybody have a great weekend.
We got game.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
Happy Memorial Day.
Bye.